Hey guys, this is Steel City EDC, and today I'm going to cover the Hinderer Knives XM18 3.5 Fatty Wharncliffe. Here we go. So, the Fatty Wharncliffe is quite a rare sought after beast. This one is a tri-way. They also did a Spanto version and I believe a Tanto version of the Fatties on the XM18, but that's all. Now they also do a skinny, but the skinny is more popular, I think, for obvious reasons. The Fatty is a bit more iconic, it's a bit more legendary actually, and very sought after. So effectively it's the scale size, the lock side scale size is ever so slightly thicker. It takes a standard scale, and then the blade stock is slightly thicker as well. So the blade stock, I believe, is the same thickness as the XM24, along with the lock side scale, whereas the show side scale is a standard thickness. This is a Hinderer scale, but it's just a normal titanium scale. They don't actually make a fatty scale. There was a bit of talk a while ago that maybe they did, and to be honest, I thought they did as well. Some misleading information out there, but a fatty scale doesn't exist. A normal scale fits on a fatty knife, just like a normal scale fits on a skinny knife. Although, because the skinnies are more popular, they have released separate skinny scales, so it kind of makes sense, or at least I hope that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me now. This was my first Hinderer Wharncliffe. I was never a massive fan of the Wharncliffe blade. I don't know why, probably the aesthetics, but having had this one and several others since then, I can tell you the Wharncliffe is a phenomenal blade to have as a user. I mean, on this particular one, the finger choil is perfect. You can really get in there and choke up in there. The XM18 3.5, you've got lots of space for your hand there. The jimping there is perfect for grip. For the longest time, actually, once I'd had this, I really fancied the no choil Wharncliffe. But having had that, and it was beautiful, don't get me wrong, I loved it. It didn't have the choil, and that changed the dynamic of this Wharncliffe blade for me. So actually, I much prefer having the finger choil for that close-up, choking up work. And this takes it to another level. So this one is in stone-washed titanium. The scale matches the lock side. It's in, the blade steel is CPM 20 CV, which was Hinderer's standard blade steel for quite a long time. There's been a lot of talk about Hinderer's steels and hardness and all that kind of stuff. To be absolutely honest, I've got lots of Hinderers. At one point I had over 40. Now I have just over 20. But I've only had probably 4 or 5 out of those that have been users. I've never had any issues with any of the steels, and I've had several different blade steels. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave that there. I think a lot of people have different expectations about steel. I know that Rick Hinderer Knives like to leave their steel slightly softer, so it's less chippy, and that's because these are built, I believe, with the intent for tactical use. Therefore, if it's not quite so hard, then it can be easily sharpened in the field. Versus if it's super hard, maybe it's harder to touch up in the field, or if you're on deployments in the army, for example, or whatever those kind of things are. Maybe you're hunting in the wild for a weekend, or camping or surviving for a week, whatever it is. I think they take the view that they like their edges their knives to be able to be sharpened, which is no bad thing. I suppose it's all about what you intend to use it for. If all you're going to do is keep it in your pocket and open parcels now and again, you probably don't need that. And maybe that's where some of the conflicts comes in. But anyway, either way, that's just my thoughts. I've never had any issues with it. But then I've had very few issues with Hinderers in general. They're my favourite knife, favourite manufacturer, brand, designer, whatever we want to call it. Have been since I first got one back in 2000 and, I think my first Hinderer was the XM Slippy Slicer. And this was probably way back in about 2017 or 18. This is a slip joint. It's a 3-inch blade. And then after that, I got in 2019, the XM18 3.5. And that's when the addiction started, and Hinderers just speak my language. So a bit of a size comparison here. There you go. You can see the difference between the 3-inch Slippy Slicer here and the 3.5-inch. And here we have a standard XM18 3.5-inch. So obviously it's exactly the same dimensions as there, but lengthways, but I'm going to show you in fact, let's try and do that now. So those with sharper eyes will be able to pick out the blade thickness is thicker on the Fatty on this one. This is the same thickness as the XM24. And the scales, very little in it, at least to my eyes. Maybe if we put them end to end, you can see just ever so slightly. There's a tiny little bit, but it's really not much. And the feel in the hand is actually very similar. I don't know if it's psychometric in that psychosomatic in that I can feel this one feels a bit thicker because I know it's a bit thicker, or if it's in my mind or not. But anyway, either way. So back to the kind of size comparisons. So again, you've got a good idea of what we're talking about here. Here is the XM24. And again, you can see the kind of difference there as they step up. Now, this Slippy Slicer is the same size as the normal XM18 3-inch. It's just the slip joint version. So size-wise, it all makes sense. Now, you should be able to see, if we take the XM24 and the Fatty, the blade thickness is the same. The scales on this XM24 might be ever so slightly wider. Yeah, ever so slightly wider, but really not much in it. So there you go. I'll move the XM24 out of the way. And in terms of size comparisons with a few others, I guess most of you are probably fairly familiar with the XM18 3.5, but of course, if you're new to the knife world or you haven't had a Hinderer yet, then this will be new to you. So here we've got the Chris Reeve large Sebenza, and here we've got the Strider SNG. So again, you can see size-wise what we're talking about there. The choil on the XM18 reduces some of the cutting edge, and you can see compared to the Sebenza, you've got like almost an extra centimetre of cutting edge there. The Strider has the same as the Hinderer, so you've actually got slightly less cutting edge on the Strider because you've got the sharpening choil as well as the finger choil. Another one that might be interesting to give you a size comparison with is the Curtis. Let's just take the Sebenza out of the way as well. So this is the Curtis, and it's the it's the, what do they call, the F medium. I know a while ago they were compared to the XM18 quite a lot. I think it's the F3, I think they call it. It's the F3, not the F medium, sorry, it's the F3. My brain's going mushy. So it's the F3, that's the model, the Curtis, and it's a medium size. So again, you can see there, very, very similar, slightly shorter overall, but very, very similar. And this is an amazing knife, actually, but a review on that will follow another time. So here we are. The price on these, They are, I believe, I got this second hand, but I believe they're the same price as the standard, which I think is $425. Of course, that comes with the titanium liner and the G10 scale. The standard scales are $200. The conversion, I actually did get this one from the States. I paid, I think it was $450, and it was second hand, so slightly over table price, but not much. I was fairly comfortable with that, and it was sold to me as having been a safe queen in the pocket a couple of times, but never used. And it's been the same for me since I've had this knife. You know, it's been in my pocket a few times. Some very, very, very occasional light use, but nothing. You know, certainly not a hard use user by any stretch of the imagination. Not that it wouldn't handle it. You know, if you're going to have a hard use folder, this would absolutely be up to the task. So there you go. Would I recommend this knife? Yes, absolutely I would. For me, I think it's an amazing knife. It's superbly comfortable in the hand. Great choil, brilliant thickness, really thick, solid, great lockup. It's got the tri-way. So if you're not familiar with the tri-way washers or tri-way system, what that means is you can change I mean, this is currently on bearings, but if you want, you can take it apart, you can take the bearings out and you can put washers in, and you can either put the nylon washers in or the phosphorus bronze washers in. Both work absolutely fine. I think the theory behind it is washers over time may be a bit smoother, that kind of glassy Sebenza type action, and of course less cleaning and maintenance. With bearings you can get bits of debris in there, so you know, if you're living in a survival exercise for a week, or out in the field, or on deployment in somewhere hot and sandy, if you're in the forces, you know, I think the idea is that you might be better on washers, so you don't have to strip it down and clean it as regularly. But that's not my situation, so I've left this on bearings. If I was going to do something like that, then I would absolutely put it on washers. And I put my XM24s on washers because they have a bigger, heavier blade, and that I find helps to make them more drop shutty. But this on bearings is perfectly drop shutty as it is. You can thumb stud flick this really easily. You can spidey flick it. Let's do another spidey flick. There you go. The thing with these hinderers, you've got to be careful not to put your fingers on the lock bar when you're doing it, otherwise that'll shut it straight down. And even the most experienced of us occasionally make some mistakes with that. So would I recommend this knife? Yes, absolutely. It's a lot of money, but I think this kind of level of folder is a lot of money. And if you want this level of quality, then that's what you pay for. I can tell you now that Hinderer's workmanship has absolutely gone through the roof since the tri-way versions came out. Prior to that, I know they're in huge demand. They're crazy cool, or at least I think they are. The quality was a bit more hit and miss in the Gen 4s and the very short-lived Gen 5s. Since moving to tri-way, it's absolutely another level. Their machining, their tolerances, everything is perfect. Of course, there are a few issues. You know, you can't... There isn't a knife manufacturer out there that doesn't have a few issues. You know, even if you talk about Koenig, you know, there'll be the odd one that comes out with some issues. It's just life. But these are of very high quality now, and I would really recommend them to you. This is a big, chunky, thick, heavy knife. You wouldn't want to carry this in your pocket constantly unless you were doing something, you know, that's very much robust, but most of us probably don't do that. In terms of sizes, I did the size comparison, but I didn't actually do the tape measure, so I'll do that for you now so you can see. You can see this is an 8-inch folder. In terms of the blade length, you've got, exactly as it says, 3.5 inches on the blade, and the cutting edge is a fraction over 3 inches because of the finger choil. So just take that tape measure out of the way. So yeah, highly recommended, awesome folder, absolutely love it. But then Hinderer speak my language, and they have been since I got my first one, all the way back then. So thank you for watching, really appreciate it. I'm Steel City EDC. Please do subscribe to my channel. It's fairly new. I've got 90 members now, or 90 followers, which is amazing. Please like, share this, add your comments, let me know what you think. Always really interested to hear, what could I do differently in these reviews, overviews. Are there any of my collection you'd particularly like me to see review or do an overview on? Is the format good? Would you like to see something different? Hopefully my voice isn't too irritating. But again, tell me what you'd like to see, and let's see if we can do that. Okay, cheers guys. Thanks and have a good one.